Good morning, everyone. So let's start discussion regarding ER model. So if you remember, in the last session, we had a basic discussion, very fundamental discussion related to ER model. So we know how to draw ER diagrams by making use of the entity sets, relationship sets, placing the attributes, how to place the constraints, cardinality constraints. So we have talked about these details in the last session. Also, we have seen how to put the constraint like participation constraint, how to show diagrammatically that the entity set is participating totally in a particular relationship set. So we have gone through these notations, right? And I hope that you must have understood all those notations, those we have covered in the last session, right? So today we are going to continue our discussion related to ER diagrams, and we'll be focusing upon ternary relationships, and if possible we are going to discuss upon few design issues related to the ER diagrams. So before going to ternary relationships, I would like to once again touch upon the concept that is related to cardinality. So we have seen earlier in the last session how to put the constraints with respect to the cardinality, mapping cardinality of the relationships. So how to depict one-to-one relationship we know, how to depict one-to-many relationship that we have seen. We have also seen how to depict the relationship constraint like many to one and also many to many. So we are having some alternative notation also for depicting the cardinality limits. So let us have a look and then we'll proceed with ternary relationships. So cardinality limits can also express the participation constraints. So let us see this relationship advisor. So we are having instructor entity set, student entity set, and we have here the relationship set between these two entity sets, and that is the advisor. So here we are having the alternative notation for depicting the cardinality limits. And how we are depicting this cardinality limits? We are putting here some limits, the minimum cardinality and the maximum cardinality, right, towards both the sides of the relationship set. So here we are having depicted towards instructor side of the advisor relationship, we have depicted the cardinality as 0 minimum cardinality and asterisk star, that is the maximum cardinality. Here at the student side, we have depicted the minimum cardinality as 1 and maximum cardinality as also 1. So how to interpret if I am depicting the cardinality constraints or the cardinality limits in this way, how to interpret it? So if I am having this cardinality limits 0 to star, so how to interpret this? I am going to interpret this like this. So I am saying that instructor can have 0 or more students. So minimum cardinality is 0 and maximum cardinality is anything. There is no limit. So how to interpret if the cardinality is being depicted like this in ER diagram? How to interpret this? This can be interpreted like instructor can have 0 or more students associated via this advisor relationship. If I want to interpret this one-to-one, cardinality limits are given. Minimum cardinality is 1, maximum is also 1. So how to interpret this? This can be interpreted like each student has exactly 1 associated instructor. Minimum is also 1 and maximum is also 1. That means exactly 1. So each student has exactly 1 associated instructor. This is how we can interpret such kind of a participation constraint, if the cardinality limits are being provided with such kind of a notation, right? So we are having here few important points noted. So if the minimum cardinality value is 1, minimum is 1, then it indicates that there is total participation. So how to depict total participation? The total participation is depicted by using the double line. So if the minimum value or the minimum cardinality is 1, this indicates that it is total participation of the entity set in the respective relationship set. So here I say that as every student is having exactly 1 associated instructor, meaning every student must participate in this relationship set advisor, right? So if this minimum value is 1, that indicates that this is a total participation. If maximum value is also 1, or if the maximum value is 1, what does this mean? Maximum value is 1. This means that entity participates in at most 1 relationship. At most 1. What does this mean? Not more than 1. So every student, so if, let us assume that if it is 0 dot dot 1, if I am having such kind of a notation 0 dot dot 1, what does this mean? 0 dot dot 1, the minimum value is 0 and maximum value is 1, correct? So if maximum value is 1, this means that the student is participating in this advisor relationship such that it may have at most 1 relationship with instructor, at most 1. So if this is the case, then I may interpret it like student may be associated with the instructor. Not necessarily every student is associated with instructor. So student may be associated with the instructor, but at the most student is having 1 instructor at the most as his or her advisor, right? So at the most 1 instructor is associated with the student as advisor. But if I am having such kind of a thing 0 to 1, that means it may happen that few of the students are not been associated with any of the instructors, right? But if I am having this notation 1 is to 1, what does this mean? This means that every student must be associated with exactly 1 instructor. Exactly 1 instructor. So this is indicating my total participation. Okay. Now, if this maximum value is asterisk or star, this means that there is no limit, right? And that is why we mentioned here, if it is 0 to star, that means instructor can have 0 or any number of students associated, no limit. So we may have anything here. So we may put even, if I write like 0 dot dot 3. So instead of this asterisk, if I put here the number 3, how to interpret this? 0 to 3. This means that instructor can have 0 or at the most 3 students associated. So one instructor may be advisor for at the most 3 students, including 0. Are you getting me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So there are several ways to denote the cardinalities. So depending on the problem statement that we have, we may pick the appropriate way to depict such kinds of cardinality constraints or the cardinality limits. Okay, so in general, if I am having this notation 1 is to star, so once again 1 is to star means minimum cardinality is 1. So the entity set or the entity must participate in the relationship because it is minimum cardinality is 1, so it must be, right? And the maximum cardinality is anything, no limit. So once again, if I am having 1 is to star, such kind of a notation depicted, so it will once again represent a double line or it represents a total participation. Correct? So if the maximum cardinality is anything star, then definitely it is total participation. Okay? And the cardinality count, right? We may say that it is total participation. Okay, so 1 is to 1, total participation, 1 is to star, total participation, 1 is to 5, total participation. So minimum cardinality, if it is 1, then definitely it is total participation, right? So every entity from this entity set participates in this relationship set. That is what we mean by this minimum cardinality limit as 1. So I hope you must have understood these concepts. If you have any doubt, please let me know. Yes? Any doubt? So may I ask Sagar, roll number 305. Sagar, are you there? Sagar Shirure, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you understood the concept?
Ma'am, at most maximum value.
Yes?
Maximum value not understood.
Maximum value. So in this kind of notation, what we are depicting is, we are depicting minimum limit and maximum limit. Minimum cardinality and maximum cardinality. Right? So if I am having minimum value of 1, then it indicates total participation. If I am having maximum value of 1, then we may say that the entity participates in at most one relationship, not more than that. So the maximum limit is 1. Okay. So I said that if minimum cardinality is 0 and maximum is 1, what it indicates? It indicates that each student may participate in this relationship. Advisor may participate, but it is not mandatory. It is not total participation. Why? Because the minimum limit is 0, not 1. If it is 1, then it is total participation. But if it is 0, then it is partial participation, not total. Okay, so student may or may not participate in this relationship advisor if it is 0 to 1. So if it is 0 to 1, how to interpret this? The student may be associated with the instructor or may not be associated with the instructor. But if student is associated with the instructor, it is associated with at most one instructor as advisor. So that is how we interpret this maximum limit. If I am having the maximum limit as star, what does this mean? Star means anything. There is no limit. So we may put here any number. Correct? So if I'm saying that here towards instructor we are having the cardinality 0 to star. What it indicates? 0 to star. 0 to star indicates that instructor can have 0 or more students associated via this relationship set advisor, 0 or more students. So it may happen that the instructor is not at all associated with the student, right? It may happen that the instructor is associated with 1 student, 2 students, 3 students, any number of students. Right? But if I'm specifically mentioning 0 to 3, what it indicates? It indicates that the maximum cardinality is 3. So, instructor may be associated with the student or may not be associated. Why I am saying may not be? Because the minimum limit is 0. So, the instructor may be associated with the student or may not be associated with the student. It is partial participation in this advisor relationship set. But as the limit maximum cardinality is 3, this means that the instructor may have at the most 3 students associated. 3 students associated because the maximum cardinality limit is 3. Right? So, Sagar, have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So, please repeat now what you mean by 0 to 3. Minimum cardinality is 0 and maximum cardinality is 3. How to interpret
Uh,
it?
if the cardinality is 0 to 3 means an instructor would have 0 student associated with it, or 1 or 2 at most. 3 students are associated with the instructor.
Yes, correct.
Mm.
Right. So, I hope all of you must have understood now how to denote the cardinality limits. So, this is the alternative way to provide the cardinality constraint. Okay. So, now let's proceed with the next concept, and that is the ternary relationship. So, in ER diagrams, we can model a relationship which is not binary, having degree greater than 2. In binary relationships, so far we have depicted only the binary relationships. So, binary relationship means we are having the relationship wherein 2 entity sets are participating. 2 entity sets are participating. So, this is my binary relationship. But it is possible to have more than 2 entity sets. Those are participating in a relationship set. If 3 entity sets are participating in the relationship set, we say that it is ternary relationship. Okay. So, let us see one example. Students work on research projects under the guidance of an instructor. Students work on research projects under the guidance of instructor. So here we are having 3 entity sets. Those are participating in the relationship. So how to depict it? We may depict it like this. Instructor, which is one of the entity sets, student is another entity set, and we are having one more entity set that is participating, that is project. So 3 entity sets are participating in this relationship set, that is project guide. And how we are interpreting this? Students work on the research projects under the guidance of instructor. So all these 3 entity sets are associated through this relationship set project guide. So if this is the case, then we say that this project guide relationship set is ternary, having degree equal to 3, because 3 entity sets are participating. Are you understanding the concept? Is there any doubt? Yes? Is there any doubt?
No,
Have you
ma'am.
understood this? May I proceed?
Yes.
Fine. Now, if I am having such kind of a ternary relationship, then usually we allow at most one arrow, out of a ternary relationship, indicating some cardinality constraint. What this arrow indicates? Arrow indicates 1. So directed line indicates 1 and undirected line indicates many, that we know. Okay, so if I'm having a ternary relationship, usually, I'm saying usually, not always, usually we allow at most one arrow out of the ternary relationship. So we are having here the arrow towards instructor, right? We are having arrow towards instructor. So this arrow indicates 1. Right? This arrow indicates the cardinality, that is 1. So how to interpret now this particular ER diagram? We may say that a student can have at most one instructor as a guide on a project. I'll repeat how to interpret this. We may say that a student can have at most one instructor as a guide for a particular project. Right? So student will be having at most one instructor, at most one. Why at most one? Because towards instructor it is indicating 1 with this arrow. Is that correct? Are you getting me? Yes? Any doubt? Any doubt? This is the way how we are denoting the cardinality constraint for the ternary relationship. So this is one way that we are having at most one arrow out of this ternary relationship, right? That is indicating some cardinality constraint. So in this scenario, if I am having an arrow towards instructor, then how to interpret this? I am going to interpret this like student can have at most one instructor as a guide, right, for his or her project. Am I clear? Yes? Roll number 314, Aishwarya. 314. Aishwarya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So how to interpret this arrow towards instructor in this scenario?
Suppose the student work on research project under the guidance of instructor. There are 3 entity sets associated with one relationship, that is the advisor. In that ternary relationship, we allow that most of one arrow. That is the one arrow directed line indicates the one instructor. That is the student. A student can have one instructor as a guide on one project.
Okay. So I hope now you must have understood it, right? So if I am having only one arrow directing to one of the entity sets, like this example, then we can interpret that the entity is associated with at most one other entity, right, from the other entity set. Is that correct? Now, let us proceed with the other consideration. So, as I stated, usually we are having only one directed line, only one arrow, right? But it is not mandatory that we are having only one arrow. But if we are having more than one arrows, right, those are coming out from the particular ternary relationship set, then we may interpret it in different ways. So what are those ways how we can interpret this relationship with more than one arrows, right? So let us assume that we are having this relationship set R, right, among these three entity sets A, B and C. So three entity sets A, B, C are participating in this relationship set R, and that is why we say that this relationship set R is my ternary relationship. Okay, now if we are having two arrows now, so what are those two arrows? These two arrows are towards B and C. Okay, so I am having now more than one arrows. So two arrows we have, and those are towards B and C. So if this is the case, then how to interpret this relationship? So we are having more than one ways to interpret this relationship. Okay, so how we are going to interpret it? I may interpret it like this. Each entity A is associated with a unique entity from B and C. I'll repeat. I may interpret it like each entity in A is associated with unique entity from B and unique entity from C, because towards B and C it is 1. Correct? Towards B and C it is 1. So if this A is related with B and C, then how it is related? Each entity is associated with unique entity from B and C, only one entity at the most. Okay, so this is how we may interpret these two arrows represented in this diagram. Okay, in other way, how we can interpret it? We may interpret it like this also. Each pair of entities from A, B, each pair of entities from entity set A and B is associated with a unique entity in C. Each pair AB is associated with unique entity in C. Or we also may interpret it like each pair AC is associated with a unique entity in B. Are you getting me? Yes. Is there any doubt? Please come up with the doubts. Have you understood? Or may I repeat once again?
Ma'am, please repeat it again.
Okay. So, see here what we are saying. We are having more than one arrows towards two entity sets in this case. So, three entity sets are participating in R, and we are having two arrows towards B and C. So, if this is the case, then we may interpret this ternary relationship in several ways. So how we can interpret this ternary relationship? So the first interpretation is like entity in A is associated with a unique entity from B and a unique entity from C. So A is associated with, here it is 1, towards B also 1 and towards C also 1. So A is associated with one entity, unique entity from B and unique entity from C. That is one interpretation. Okay. In other way, how we can interpret it? Each pair of entities from A and B. So I may pick the pair of entities A, B. So every such pair of entities from A, B is associated with a unique C entity. Or in other words, every pair AC is associated with unique B. This is also possible. Every pair AC is associated with unique B. This is also possible. Right? So we are having various meanings. How to interpret this relationship set R, ternary relationship set R, if we are having more than one arrows directed to different entity sets. Right? So depending on whatever is the application, right, we may pick the appropriate meaning for that relationship set. Right? Have you understood? Yes? Have you understood or any doubts? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So let's proceed now with a difference in the binary relationship and non-binary relationships. Right? And I'm having here one statement afterwards. So let's see that even though few of the relationships, those actually appear to be non-binary, maybe ternary, quaternary, right? So if there are certain relationships, those appear to be non-binary, may be better represented using the binary relationships. So I'm going to demonstrate this concept with one example. So let us assume that we are having a ternary relationship parents. We are having a ternary relationship parents. So which are the entity sets those are participating in this relationship parent? We are having child, father and mother. These three entity sets are participating in this relationship set parent. And that is why we are saying that this parent relationship is ternary relationship. Right? But now if you look at this, we may feel that this is really a good representation. That child is associated with his or her father and mother through this relationship parent. Is that correct? But now, if I look at this ternary relationship, it is also possible for me to represent this ternary relationship by making use of two different binary relationships. Two different binary relationships. So how I can represent the same thing with binary relationships? I may represent this like the child is associated with the father and child is associated with the mother. Am I correct? Can we represent the same ternary relationship like this? The child is associated with the father and child is associated with the mother. Is it possible to represent like this? Using two different binary relationships? Yes. Can I represent this ternary relationship by making use of these two binary relationships?
No.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is it possible for me to depict this ternary relationship by making use of two binary relationships? Yes or no? It is possible, no?
But it's
The same thing I am trying to represent. Who is, so this parent relationship, what this parent relationship is denoting? This parent relationship is actually telling me that who is the father and mother of a child. Am I correct? What this parent relationship is meant for? This relationship is telling me who is the father and who is the mother for the child. Correct? Yes or no?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So if I want to represent this thing, that who is the father and who is the mother for the child, is it not possible for me to separately I can indicate who is the father of the child and who is the mother of the child? Yes? Is it possible? Whether these two are equivalent, the upper one and the below one. One is the ternary relationship, and now the same thing I am trying to depict using two binary relationships. Yes? Whether both are same or different, whether the same information is being represented by making use of this scenario, ternary relationship, and whether it is possible for me to represent the same information by making use of two binary relationships like this, whether I am talking about the same information, whether I am reflecting the same information. May I say that these two
Yes,
are
ma'am.
equivalent? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Because yes, ma'am. Because we are getting same information from both.
We are getting same information from both. Ultimately, what we want to store? We want to store the information related to the child. And what information? Who is the father and who is the mother? Right? So the same information I can store with this kind of design also. Right? So with this design also it is possible for me to find out who is the father of a child and who is the mother of a child. Correct? So what I want to discuss with this example is some relationships, those appear to be non-binary. So this parent relationship is non-binary. So some relationships that appear to be non-binary may be in fact better represented using the binary relationships. So why I am saying this is a better representation, maybe why I am saying that this is a better representation using two separate binary relationships instead of one single ternary relationship. I may say that this is a better representation, and the reason why I am saying that this could be a better representation, the reason is sometimes whenever I am storing the information, it may happen that I may not know who is the father of a child, or I may not know who is the mother of the child. If all the information about father and mother is available with me for that particular child, then definitely I may prefer to use this ternary relationship because all the information is available with me. So whenever I am trying to input the data, I know who is the father of the child, I know who is the mother of the child, right? And that is why while inputting the information in this parent, obviously if you remember, what are the attributes by default for this parent? For this relationship parent, by default, I am having the attributes which are the primary keys of all participating entity sets. So I may have the child ID, I may have the father ID, I may have the mother ID. Let us assume these are the primary keys of these respective entity sets. So to denote a relationship in this parent, I must have the child ID, I must have the father ID, and I must have the mother ID. Are you getting me? But if I am not knowing either the father or the mother of the child, then either if I do not know the father, then this father ID would be null. If I am not knowing mother of the child, this mother ID would be null. And I do not want to have such kinds of unknown values in my data. Right? So if one of the person, mother or father, is unknown, right, then whatever data I am storing in this parents relationship, I'll be having some missing values for these attributes. Okay? And if I want to overcome this problem, in case all the data is not available with me, I would prefer to go with this particular design. Right? Wherein it is possible for me to store separately the information related to father, and also it is possible for me to store separately the information related to mother. So if I am not knowing who is the father of this child or who is the mother of this child, then not necessarily I am storing that information in the respective relationships. If I know the information, then only I'll add that information in this relationship. If I know who is mother of this child, then only I'll be storing the information in this particular relationship. Otherwise, I'll not be storing. Right? But if I go with this scenario, then irrespective of knowing whether I know the father of a child or the mother of the child, even though I am knowing only one, father or mother, I need to input that data, right? But if I am inputting that data, I'll be having some missing values. Is that correct? Are you getting my point? Yes? Are you able to understand? Yes or no? May I ask roll number 340,
Yes,
Ashutosh?
Yes, ma'am. Understood, ma'am.
Have you understood the concept?
Yes, ma'am. We are finding in this, if any parent is missing, we can find it.
Yes, yes, correct. So, see, if all the data is available with me at a time, then I may go with such kind of a ternary relationship. But if some data is missing, then I may prefer to go with such kind of a design. So, in fact, both are equivalent. In both way, it is possible for me to find out who is the father and who is the mother for a particular child. Correct? But if some data is missing, then also it is efficiently being stored if I go with this kind of a binary relationship instead of ternary relationship. So, in some scenarios, it may happen that we may prefer to go with binary relationships rather than the relationships which are non-binary, which are having the degree more than 2. That correct? But sometimes, depending on the application, some relationships are naturally non-binary relationships, and that is why in such scenarios we need to go with the non-binary relationships without converting it into the binary ones. So I hope you must have understood this concept of binary relationships versus non-binary relationships. So sometimes it is better to go with binary relationships instead of non-binary relationships. And the example that I have provided you I hope the concept is clear. And simultaneously, I am saying that in certain scenarios, in certain applications, it is not possible to convert the non-binary relationships efficiently in the form of binary relationships, because naturally these non-binary relationships are giving us some insight, more insight about the data, and that is why sometimes, depending on the application, we may go with the non-binary relationships. Okay, but if it is possible, we should prefer to go with binary relationships instead of non-binary relationships. And the reason is binary relationships are more convenient to depict, these are more convenient to handle, these are more convenient to interpret. And that is why, if possible, it is advisable to convert a non-binary relationship into the binary relationship in some way. Okay, so I am giving you here the set of rules. If I am having, say for example, a ternary relationship like this R, wherein I am having participation of three entity sets A, B and C, right? Then I can convert this ternary relationship into the number of binary relationships. So how to systematically do that? We are having certain steps to be followed. So this can be converted like this design. So this ternary relationship can be converted into this form. So what we are having here this relationship set R, which is ternary relationship, that is being converted into this design. Just look at this design. So this ternary relationship is being converted into this form, wherein I have introduced one new entity set E along with three binary relationships, right? So let us see the process. So converting non-binary relationships to binary form with one example of the ternary relationship set R among three entity sets A, B and C. So if I want to convert it into the binary form, the first step is to create an artificial entity set E. So I'll be creating new entity set E. Now what next? I'll be having now this new entity set E along with three relationships, binary relationships, RA, RB and RC. RA is the relationship between original entity set A and this new entity set E. Similarly, RB is the relationship set between E and B, and RC is the relationship set between C and this E. So what we are trying to do, if I am having this ternary relationship set R, I am going to convert it, like I'll be creating one new artificial entity set E and I'll be having three binary relationship sets RA, RB and RC. Those are connecting to E and A, E and B, E and C respectively. Okay, now what next I'll be doing? I want to model this in this form now. So what data I'm storing here in this relationship set R? I'm storing the data like I'll be storing the primary key of A, primary key of B and primary key of C here. And it may happen that I am having some descriptive attribute also for R. So that is what I am storing in this relationship set R. Now, if it gets converted, this ternary relationship gets converted into this form, then obviously whatever data that I was about to store in this relationship set R with respect to these three entity sets A, B, C, I also need to think of how that data now can be stored in this design. Okay, so what we are going to do next is, as we have created this new entity set E, I must have some primary key for this entity set E, and that is why we are going to introduce one identifying attribute for this entity set E. So I'll be having some primary key for this entity set E. What next? What I'll do? I will add, if I am having any attributes like this, any additional attributes of R, I am going to add those attributes to this E. So if I am having such kind of a descriptive attribute for R, then I am going to add that attribute as attribute of E. So for E, I am having now identifying attribute, which is a primary key, and also I'll be having the descriptive attributes of R, if any. Okay. Now what next? Now what is there in this R? I am storing in this R the relationship of the form AI, BI, CI. So what is this AI, BI, CI? I am having the attribute from AI, from A, attribute from B and attribute from C, and that comprises one relationship in this relationship set R. So whatever these relationships in R, I need to split now those relationships in this form. Correct? So what I'll do, I will have a new entity EI in this entity set E, and I will be adding three relationships, three respective relationships. Okay? In this relationship set, in this relationship set, and also in this relationship set. So what I'll do, EI is the identifying attribute for E. So along with this EI, I'll be having, along with this EI, I'll be having combination of AI, and that will go in this array. Along with this EI, I'll be having combination of B, that is BI. So EI, BI will go into this relationship set RB, and EI, CI will go in this relationship set RC. Okay, so let us see the example to understand this better. Let us assume that in this entity set A, we are having the entities stored with the identifiers, say A1, A2, A3 and A4. So these are the four entities. Those are being stored in this A. Similarly, B is storing four entities, B1, B2, B3, B4. Let us assume that C is also storing four entities, C1, C2, C3, C4. Right? So, with respect to this ternary relationship, what is there in my R? Is actually storing the combinations of the entities from these respective entity sets. So let us assume that R is storing A1, B1, C1 as one relationship, A2, B2, C2 as another relationship, A3, B3, C3 and A4, B4, C4. So R is storing now these relationships. Right? Do you agree with me? Have you understood till this point? Yes? What is there in A, what is there in B, and what is there in C, and what is there in R? Are you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now, what we are trying to do is we are trying to convert this ternary relationship set R into this structure, this design, right? So, how I'm going to store now this data? Typically, this data stored in R in this particular design. Okay. So, what I'll do? See here. What I'll do? As I mentioned, for this E, I'll be having the identifier. Say E1, E2, E3 and E4. So this represents the unique identification for the entity that is stored in this E. Okay. Now, along with this E1, let us assume, along with this E1, I want to store this relationship A1, B1, C1. Right? Now, it is not possible to store the relationship like A1, B1, C1, but I need to split it. So, how I am going to split this? In RA, I will be storing E1, A1. In RB, I will be storing E1, B1. In RC, I will be storing E1, C1. So, ultimately, if I collect all the entries stored in RA, RB and RC, those are related with E1. Ultimately, what I'll get? Associated with E1, I am having A1, B1 and C1. Right? The same relationship, A1, B1, C1. Only thing is, instead of storing it as a whole in R, I am storing it in 3 different binary relationships like E1 A1, E1 B1 and E1 C1. So if I collect all these 3 entries associated with this E1, ultimately what I am getting? E1 is associated with A1, B1, C1. And that is what my relationship is, original relationship is. Similarly, if I am having now this relationship A2 that comprises of entity A2, B2 and C2. Now, how this is going to be stored in this design? I'll be storing like, I'll be creating new entity E2 in E, right? And in RA, what I'm going to store? E2, A2. In RB, what I'm going to store? E2, B2. And in RC, I'm going to store now E2, C2. And similar is the case for E3 and E4. Or these 2 relations, those are being stored in R. Right? So, the essence is, number 1, if we are having non-binary relationships, then try to convert those non-binary relationships in binary forms. And the reason is the binary relationships are more efficient to handle. Right? So binary relationships are more useful to implement, and that is why we should prefer to use binary relationships. So if we are having any non-binary relationship, first let us try whether it can be converted into the binary form. If it is possible to convert it into the binary form without hampering the meaning of that relationship, the semantics of that relationship, then definitely we should think of converting it into a binary form. And just I have demonstrated you how we can convert a ternary relationship into its binary equivalent. Right? So wherever required and wherever possible, we should always try to convert a non-binary relationship into its binary form, because it is more convenient to handle. Right? Or it is more convenient sometimes to store the data in the form of binary relationships rather than ternary relationships or non-binary relationships. So I hope you must have understood the concept. If not, please let me know. Okay, good enough. But whatever I explained, right, by making use of these tables, this is for the sake of understanding, right? So actually, if I ask you to list out the steps in conversion from ternary relationship into the binary form, then what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to list out these steps. So the first step is creating the artificial entity set E, correct? And creating three relationship sets RA, RB and RC between A, B and C respectively, right? So that is the first step, creating E and three relationships RA, RB and RC respectively between A, B and C. What next? As we have created new artificial entity set E, we need to have one identifying attribute, one primary key for this entity set E. So that we need to create. Right? What next? If I am having any descriptive attributes for the original relationship set R, I need to add those descriptive attributes of R into E. So E will have now the identifying attribute along with the descriptive attributes of R. Okay, so that is the next step. And what remains? For every relationship that is stored in this capital R of the form AI, BI, CI, we need to split that relationship such that we are having the new entity associated with this AI, BI, CI, and that is EI. Okay, and what we are going to do next is we are going to add EI, AI into RA. We are going to add EI, BI into RB and EI, CI into RC. So these are the steps if we want to convert any non-binary relationship into a binary form, right? So I hope you must have understood the concept. Okay, so next time we are going to discuss few design issues, important design issues, and also will be focusing upon few remaining concepts related to ER model like weak entity set, strong entity set, then specialization, generalization, and also aggregation. Okay, so let's stop today. I hope you must have understood these concepts. If you have any doubts, please let me know if you have any doubts. Conclude. I'm posting the link for the quiz. So respond to the quiz. Thank you.